Everyone said Brutus was a lost cause, a monster wrapped in scars, too broken to love, too dangerous to save. At barely 15 pounds, when he should have been 70, this pit bull was already invisible to the world. But 30 seconds after crossing the threshold of his forever home, this shattered dog did something nobody on earth expected. And the little girl standing in that doorway, she will never, ever forget it. This is Brutus's story, and it will destroy you in the most beautiful way. When the rescue volunteers first spotted Brutus on the freezing streets of Bermondsey, they almost walked past him. He didn't look like a dog. He looked like a shadow. His ribs jutted through paper-thin skin like broken fence posts. His coat, once deep black and proud, was a patchwork of dried wounds and matted fur. His eyes were the worst part. Not angry, not aggressive, just empty. The hollow eyes of a creature who had stopped expecting anything good from this world. At 15 pounds, he was barely surviving, a 70-pound dog trapped inside a skeleton. If you're watching right now and you haven't subscribed yet, I need you to stop for 1 second. Stories like Brutus's only reach the people who need them most when this community grows. If you believe broken things deserve second chances, hit that subscribe button right now, because what happens next in this story is exactly why this channel exists. The veterinarian's report was devastating. Multiple fractures healed at wrong angles, burn scars layered beneath the fur, prolonged starvation that had pushed his organs to the edge of failure. The vet couldn't explain how he was still alive. Every single day on those streets had been a war against death, and somehow, against all odds, Brutus kept winning that war. Not because he was dangerous, because deep inside that ruined body, something refused to give up. At the shelter, Brutus disappeared into himself. He pressed against the furthest corner of his kennel and stayed there. Staff brought soft blankets, they spoke in gentle voices, they left food close but never forced it. Days passed. Brutus watched everything through those hollow eyes, waiting for the pain that always followed kindness. Then came the family. They weren't looking for a pit bull. They weren't looking for a challenge or a project or a dog with a story. They were just looking for a soul that needed to be found. When they walked past Brutus's kennel, the dad almost moved on, but his daughter, 6 years old, barely taller than the kennel door, stopped completely. "Daddy, that one." Brutus looked up. For the first time in weeks, he made eye contact with a human. Not a flinch, not a retreat, just a look. Fragile and searching, like a question he'd stopped believing had an answer. Against every warning, against every rational thought, they signed the papers. Brutus was going home. The car ride was silent except for his breathing, rapid, shallow, terrified. His 15-pound frame trembled in the back seat. He'd learned that hope was the most dangerous thing in the world. Good things didn't last. They never did. When they pulled into the driveway, nobody rushed. The dad opened the car door and simply extended his hand. No grabbing, no forcing, just an open palm, an offering. "Here, you can trust this." Brutus stepped out slowly, his oversized paws, still enormous despite the starvation, touched the driveway pavement. The family walked toward the front door. Brutus followed. 1 step, 2, 3, each one an act of impossible courage. The mom opened the door. Warm light poured out onto the porch. She stepped inside. The dad stepped inside. The little girl stepped inside and turned back with her arms open wide. Brutus stood on the threshold. Behind him, the streets that nearly killed him, rejection, cold, hunger, pain. In front of him, something he had no word for yet. Nobody pushed, nobody pulled. They just waited, giving this broken soul the power to choose. And then, with every last ounce of courage left in his beaten body, Brutus stepped forward. The moment his paw crossed that threshold, something inside him broke open, not in pain, but in release. Every wall came down at once, every defense, every layer of protection, every lesson that said trust nothing, expect nothing, feel nothing. Gone. All of it. Gone. Brutus started dancing. His tail moved so hard his entire skeletal frame shook. His paws tacked the wooden floor like he was playing a song only he could hear. He spun in circles, mouth open, eyes wide and alive and sparkling, completely unrecognizable from the hollow creature in that shelter kennel. The little girl burst into tears. The mom collapsed to her knees. The dad stood completely still, jaw clenched, blinking hard. Brutus ran between them, pressing his scarred nose into each of their hands, their legs, their faces. You and you and you. He was counting his people, making sure they were real. He stopped at the little girl last, looked up at her with those eyes, no longer hollow, no longer empty, burning now with something ancient and overwhelming and pure. She wrapped both arms around his neck and whispered into his fur, "You're safe now. You're home." Today, 5 years later, Brutus weighs 175 pounds and operates as the household's self-appointed couch supervisor. He remains fully convinced he is a lapdog. He drools on important paperwork, he steals pillows, he wakes the little girl up every morning by sitting directly on her feet. He is, by every possible measure, the most loved animal on the planet. His transformation didn't happen because someone fixed him, it happened because someone chose him, when the whole world had already decided he wasn't worth choosing. And that's what gets me every single time I tell this story. Because Brutus didn't need someone perfect, he didn't need someone fearless or experienced or specially trained. He needed one family willing to stand in a doorway and wait. Just wait. Without rushing, without forcing, without giving up. That kind of patience, quiet, steady, unconditional, is rarer than we think. And to a dog who had known nothing but betrayal, it wasn't just kindness, it was everything. It was the whole world rebuilt from scratch. One open hand, one warm light, one little girl with her arms wide open. Brutus walked through that door and never looked back. Neither did they. So here's what I want to know from you. Do you believe a dog can sense the exact moment it's finally safe? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if Brutus's story moved you even a little, hit that like button. You'll help one more family find their Brutus.